So what happens when you spend over £200 million on an extraction shooter nobody asked for? Player base evaporates in a month. Also this week, Xbox continues to treat its own console like a third-party afterthought. No Man's Sky somehow released a better Pokémon game than Game Freak has. The US government desperately needs you to put down the controller and come direct actual airplanes. I'm Alex, and welcome to this week's Debrief. Before we get into the absolute shambles of the industry this week, I just need to take a quick second. The channel has been absolutely flying lately. Not only did we hit our 500 subscriber milestone, but we absolutely blew right past it, and we're now at over 600. The guild itself is growing incredibly fast, and I just want to say a massive thank you to every single one of you who's dropped a like, leaves a comment, and spends your Monday afternoons here in the lounge. Now let's get into this week's news. Right, let's talk about the absolute whiplash we're experiencing with the Pokemon franchise currently. While I'm having a great time rebuilding civilization in Pokopia, Game Freak has simultaneously released the highly anticipated Pokémon Champions, and it's an utter disaster. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. How do you release a masterpiece and a dumpster fire in the same financial quarter? Champions is currently suffering from game-breaking bugs, competitive matches, the entire point of the game, that are ending in draws because the timer ran out before the clunky animations can finish. The shiny hunting mechanics are the most brutal and unrewarding we have seen in decades. The absolute kicker? A massive bug that is currently trapping Pokemon transferred from Pokemon Home in digital purgatory. Your decade-old prize competitive team? Just gone, trapped in the void. But here's where the story gets incredibly cynical and downright hilarious. Because while Game Freak is struggling to make their own mechanics work, a tiny team over in Guildford has just casually ate their lunch. Hello Games has just dropped the Xeno area update for No Man's Sky. Let me read this out to you. You can now capture wild alien creatures from across the procedurally generated galaxy, breed them to perfect their genetic mutations, and assemble them into a team to fight in simulated, turn-based tactical combat. Let's not mince words here. No Man's Sky, a 10-year-old space exploration game that launched as one of the biggest flops in history, has literally just added Pokemon to their game. For free, and it works perfectly. Sean Murray and his team are currently putting out more innovative and stable creature collecting mechanics than the highest grossing media franchise on the planet. The irony is so thick, I think you'd need the Master Sword to cut through it. Alright, let's move over to Microsoft, who have been absolutely determined to make their own console completely redundant. As we discussed last week, Starfield has officially landed on PlayStation 5, accompanied by the massive Free Lanes update, and the reception this week has been incredibly revealing. Cruise Mode, which finally adds seamless space travel without loading screens, has fundamentally fixed the game for a massive portion of the player base. But here's the bitter pill to swallow for Xbox loyalists. Reports are flooding in from tech outlets that the PS5 version is running significantly smoother and with better frame pacing than the Xbox Series X version. You literally couldn't write this. Xbox players paid £70 3 years ago to act as paid beta testers, defending the loading screens and the jank, only for Microsoft to hand the perfected, technically superior version to their direct rival. And before you go thinking this is just a one-off, let's talk about Forza Horizon 6. The media embargo has lifted ahead of the release date on the 19th of May. And Playground Games confirmed the rumours. We're going to Japan. The map looks unbelievable. The Tokyo City environment alone is 5 times larger than the one from Forza Horizon 5. The starter cars are perfect. An Nissan Silvia S13 Drift Missile, a legendary Toyota Sleeker, and a massive 1970 GMC Jimny. It looks like the ultimate arcade racer. But hiding right there in the press release is the confirmation that Forza Horizon 6 will be launching on the PS5 later this year. Forza, the crown jewel of Xbox racing. It really begs the question, if Microsoft is putting their biggest, most system-selling exclusive onto PlayStation hardware within months of launch, and sometimes running them better, what is the actual point of buying an Xbox? Okay, now let's talk about the absolute financial black hole that is the live service extraction shooter market. A massive report from Forbes and Bungie insider Paul Tassi dropped this week regarding Marathon. The reports confirm that Bungie and Sony spent over $200 million, likely closer to $250 million, or roughly £200 million, developing this game. And that doesn't even include the ongoing live service maintenance costs. And what have they gained from $250 million? According to data, a 68 to 70% drop in Steam player base in less than a month. The 24-hour peak is sitting around 26,000 players. I mean, in the live service world, spending that much money for a player base that small is catastrophic. The absolute hubris of Sony and Bungie thinking they could just waltz in to an oversaturated extraction shooter market, slap a £40 to £60 price tag on its game and expect everyone to drop what they're playing. At this point, they're all praying it doesn't become another Concord situation. But let's be real, the writing's on the walls. And it seems financial panic is spreading across the industry. Rumours from highly reliable insiders like Jez Corden are swirling this week that Microsoft might be pulling the plug on day one Game Pass launches for Call of Duty 2026. Let's just pause and think about that. Microsoft spent £55 billion buying Activision Blizzard. The entire justification? The only reason to spend the GDP of a small country on a publisher is to put Call of Duty on Game Pass and create an absolute monopoly on subscription gaming. If they pull COD from the Game Pass to force £70 retail sales just to make up for their hardware division bleeding out, it proves their entire subscription strategy is fundamentally cracking. But finally, let's talk about something a little lighthearted and honestly, rather bizarre. If you're tired of getting yelled at in Warzone lobbies, the US government would like a word. The FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, has officially put out a statement this week saying that gamers are the key to solving their massive air traffic controller shortage. Apparently, the ability to track multiple moving targets, manage stress during chaotic situations, and make split-second decisions while staring at a glowing screen translates perfectly to making sure a Boeing 747 doesn't crash into an Airbus on a runway. So if your parents or partner ever tells you that gaming is a waste of time, you can now legitimately tell them that you're training for a high-stakes federal government job. Just maybe don't use voice comms the same way you do in a Call of Duty lobby when talking to a commercial pilot. That brings us to the end of this week's debrief. Once again, a massive thank you to all 600 plus of you that have joined the guild. We're building something brilliant here, and I'm glad you're all coming along for the ride. I've done a lot of cynical reality checks your way today, so I want to turn it over to you. I want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are Xbox consoles officially dead if Forza and Starfield are playing better on the PS5? Is Bungie ever going to claw back the money that they've spent on Marathon? And most importantly, would you trust your Warzone squad mate to land a commercial airliner? Drop all your thoughts down below, hit the like button if you've enjoyed this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, I'll see you in the lounge.